Good morning. Welcome to the Sativa Segment. I am your host, Richard Cheng. We are filming episode 6 today. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that Dads at Peace is the organization that's fueling this episode. Dads at Peace is a men's resource center that's based here in Dallas, Texas. If you want to find out more, you can certainly look them up on Facebook. Just type in Dads at Peace and you can find them on Facebook. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm wearing my Power BioPharms t-shirt, courtesy of the Power BioPharms team. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Do you mind just introducing yourselves?
Sure. I'm Colt Power, founder and CEO of Power BioPharms.
I am Nick Williams, the Director of Agriculture.
And what about?
And I am Stephanie Hastings, and I'm the Marketing Director.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's a cold morning.
It's good to
It
be
is
here.
a very
It's a
cold
little
morning.
chilly.
Yeah.
It's very rare here in Texas that we get some snow, but we do see some flurries. Thank you for making the time to come on the show. Colt, why don't we go ahead and talk a little bit about how you got started in the cannabis industry, why you started Power BioPharms. Tell us how you got into it.
Sure. It was the plant really helped me a lot. I grew up as an athlete through my childhood, played sports through high school and into college, and played Division I lacrosse. And through that, I injured my knee pretty badly, along with my neck a little bit, but wanted to stay healthy as I got into adulthood and really wasn't able to work out consistently without my knee swelling up until I found CBD. After that started working for me and really kind of changed things. I learned more about the plant and other things that it could help people with. And right around that same time, COVID hit and definitely put the career I had been working in for 10 years on hold to a certain extent. And coincidentally as well was right when Texas opened up licensing for hemp growing. So all the things kind of came together at all the right time. And I'd been drawn to entrepreneurship since I was a kid.
Okay.
And yeah, this just everything came together and this really called me, and I never would have seen it coming, I guess, until it was the most important thing I felt like I had to do.
Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here because some of my guests who come on, they kind of grew up in the legacy market, or they grew up around the plant in some way or fashion. Is that something that was part of your childhood, or is that something that it was relatively new and you thought, I appreciate the medicinal benefits of it. I see some advantages of this plant and how it can help the community. Tell me about what your thoughts are when you first got engaged, right?
Sure. Well, I definitely, with my focus on my athletic career growing up, I was terrified of getting in trouble. So really, weed or other drugs was never on the radar. I'd be lying if I didn't say I didn't try it a couple of times in high school for sure. But sure. I think it made me very anxious because I was so worried about what it could do to my athletic career. And so I didn't find it until that wasn't a concern anymore. And I think since I've learned what I have now, I wish it could be available to more athletes and more people. And I think it was, just really eye-opening. Yeah, I guess almost a frustration that it's something that was hidden from before.
Yeah, how did the cannabinoid-based products help you? Did it alleviate pain, or did it provide a soothing feeling that you thought, this is something that I want to create for myself?
At first, it was really just knocking down the swelling. My knee injury is one where it doesn't really hurt acutely if I'm doing what inflames it. It's just the next day I'll wake up and it's so swollen I can barely walk. And once I started regularly consuming CBD, that stopped happening. I could work out hard, wake up the next day, it wasn't swollen, I could do it again. Once I, like I said, learned more and started to consume other cannabinoids, I've learned that THC, I think, is an amazing, has amazing potential for athletic performance as well. I mean, I use THC before I do cardio every morning, and I think there's really something to be said for that, which I'd say is kind of going out on a limb with the stigma of it, looking backwards. But that's, I think there's a lot of potential.
Wow, so you use THC before you work out.
Mm-hmm.
So help me understand how THC has enhanced your workout, or why do you use THC before you work out? Because I've never thought about that.
Sure. So I guess kind of going back to when I started everything and decided to dive in, I've always been the type of person that like I feel moved to something and then I'm going to research it and understand it as much as I can. And I went deep when I was getting started on all this, reading medical journals and different studies and things about what the plant can do. You know, despite whatever or not the approvals are at the federal level. The science clearly is there, and the benefits are there. And the more I learned about the way it interacts with your body through the endocannabinoid system, a lot of it's the same chemistry that happens when you exercise. And so I'm convinced through what I've learned and through my anecdotal experiences that you're kind of almost jump starting that runner's high, and it helps alleviate pain. It helps loosen the joints a little bit and kind of gets you to that more comfortable feeling like you've already been exercising for 15 or 20 minutes. And especially dealing with some of the injuries that linger, or just general stiffness, or kind of the your body telling you maybe you don't want to work out this morning when you know you need to. I think it gets you in that place very quickly, and it seems to be very effective. I would say it's probably not for everything. I wouldn't say everyone should consume THC and go do whatever they want, but I'd get on the bike, like a Peloton bike. It's very controlled. You know, I'm not like, I don't know. It's very controlled, and in that application, it seems to work very well.
Do you have a preference between like a gummy or a tincture?
I work out first thing in the morning when I wake up, and so a cart is a vape cart. It seems to be the most efficient way and to get it into my system, and it
Okay.
Yeah, gummy would just take too long, I guess.
Yeah, so much of the endocannabinoid system is still being explored, right?
Definitely.
They're finding out different types of cannabinoids that's having different effects all the time, and more research. I've always said that we've just barely scratched the surface of what other stuff can do. I've spoken with friends who are in med school, and they have probably no more than 30, 40 minutes of education on the endocannabinoid system. So I think that's interesting.
The first time I heard that someone would do that, it was one of my friends and from commercial real estate. It was another broker, and he said he wakes up every morning and smokes, and then goes to Orange Theory, one of the the workout gyms. And when he told me that, I was like, "That's the craziest thing I've ever heard." That's that sounds irresponsible. And then having tried it, I'm like, "No, that might be there really is something to that." I think.
Yeah.
And I did a hike of Pikes Peak over the summer, and used myself kind of as an experiment there. And I'd read about a biker kind of doing a similar thing in France, where he like did a video blog as he rode like, I think it was like 100 miles every day for 20 days or something, like using cannabis throughout that whole time.
No kidding.
But on my hike, I hiked Pikes Peak and used it anytime my foot would start to hurt or my knee would start to hurt through the hike. I would dose again, and it just put me back into the zone, and nothing hurt. And I don't know, I think.
Several years ago, I went hiking to in Utah, and the person that was hiking with me, this person was consuming the entire time. I never knew it, but apparently it really helped this person. So
I was definitely taking that approach. I wasn't letting anyone else know in our group. I was at the back of the line because it's taken some time to feel comfortable saying it out loud. But I think as things progress and as we learn more, and there doesn't seem to be risks associated with it, other than maybe certain activities, like I was saying, you might not want to be doing some of the decision making. But.
Yeah. Now, Nick, you're Colt's expert grower, right?
Yes, sir.
So
yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about how you got into growing. How did you become essentially the expert farmer of the group?
So initially, I had gotten into it with my father. My father, when I was 16, I went up and lived with him in North Carolina.
Okay.
And he just asked me if I wanted to grow some weed in a closet.
Okay.
And that's literally how I got started. And then I basically over the last 20 years have just taught myself mainly everything about it. And I was actually about to start a microgreens business whenever COVID started. And I think after the whole COVID situation, that's when I decided, I'm gonna find the work, in this industry. And that's when I found Colt.
I'm trying to think back on all the episodes I've done. I think you might be the first person that's like the designated cultivation expert on the show.
Yeah.
So this is my one opportunity to start asking some really interesting cultivation questions.
Yeah,
because,
of course.
I don't know as much about cultivation as people are in the industry. So when you grow hemp, is your approach different than if you were to grow, say, marijuana?
So basically, no, it's almost
Okay.
exactly the same. It's just a different seed. The
Okay.
concentration of the cannabinoids is different inside the seed. So in the genetics,
Mhm.
of the seed, that's the only thing that's different, but it's exactly the same.
Okay. Equipment relatively the same.
Everything's the
Nice.
same. Yeah, same
Okay.
equipment, the same, almost the exact same grow temps, CO2, all the things like that.
Now,
It's
how do
almost
you
all the same.
manipulate cannabinoid? I guess the level of cannabinoids in your plants.
Well, you don't really manipulate them so much. You just give them, that optimal growing, like the
Okay.
parameters of the rooms and things like that to get the highest concentration you can get. But the majority of all of that is all already based into the genetics of that seed before you even pop the seed.
Okay.
That's why they have, all the COAs and things like that to tell you what's in that flower, so that like future growers or breeders or anything like that know what's in that seed already.
So what you're saying is the genetics it's already predisposed on what is going to be potentially be achieved. All
Yes, sir.
you're doing is you're creating an environment
The
so that it
perfect
can
en-
maximize its achievement.
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
exactly right.
Is it expensive to manage water, light? Tell me a little bit about that.
So water's not too bad, things like that, but the initial like upfront cost of like buying the lights and using the newer technology of like LED lights now, as opposed to the high pressure sodium lights, which are much cheaper, but they're a lot higher to run them and maintain them. They're a lot more expensive. They run hotter, so you use a lot more air conditioning and things like that.
Okay.
So it's the initial cost, yeah, is pretty bad, but it's not, once you get going, it's not too bad.
So what's the biggest killer to the plant? Well, I mean, what can really like just
Oh,
really-
it's definitely bugs. Pests.
bugs?
Pests.
Okay. And how do you control those bugs?
So we actually spray 2 to 3 times a week, and you have to like rotate which pesticides, insecticides, fungicides, whatever you use. We use a lot of OMRI listed, all organic, fungicides that attack the plants and attack the pest on the plants,
Okay.
and a lot of systemics like that. But yeah, it's usually the pest that it's the worst problems.
Okay. So, I'm curious because, and this may be a combo Nick and Colt question. How did you decide on an indoor grow versus going somewhere else to do outdoor grow, et cetera?
Couple drivers for that. I mean, definitely.
It could be financial, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
The logistical side. My dad grew up on a farm in Mississippi, and I'd heard enough horror stories of the woes of outdoor farming and being subject to Mother Nature. And I think Texas is no less ominous than Mississippi. I couldn't. I don't know. No matter what the crop, I really don't know that I'd be comfortable banking a large operation behind it. I mean, we need outdoor farmers. I don't mean to talk it down. That's just not my risk appetite.
Sure.
But the indoor side too, I feel like I really love the fact that is the way to make the most consistent product with the highest quality.
Well, it's a controlled environment.
Completely controlled
Right.
environment. It's you versus yourself to a certain extent.
Yep.
Any problem you have, you're responsible for much more than outdoor.
Yep.
And I think you get to every cycle, every harvest, push efficiencies and figure out, okay, if what can we tweak to get a higher yield, to get a higher cannabinoid content? What can we do to, decrease water usage and all those things? I looking at it as kind of a cultivation-based manufacturing operation, with all the controls being in our court, I thought was both appealing functionally, but also financially too.
Okay.
It is more expensive, but more controlled.
And Nick, from a grower's perspective, do you have a preference between one or over the other?
So mine would be for the quality. The quality you're going to get from indoor compared to the outdoors, just
Okay.
it's night and day difference. Unless you're in like some places like Humboldt County where they have like perfect outdoors, real nice, sunny, things like that. The temperature's great for that stuff.
I do have another question. It just dawned on me. So in Texas, we all know, it's really big, right? So you have the hill country, you have some very desert-like conditions. When you're in the valley, it's really hot. When you're in West Texas, it's really dry. Do those environments, is that an optimal environment to grow hemp?
So for it to be that hot and dry, no, it's not very optimal for it, no. Because it's the hot temperatures and the the dryness can actually lead to some of the plants actually hermaphroditing, and the females will throw pollen sacs and things like that.
No kidding.
So
Okay.
it can actually stress the plants out worse.
And the increased temperature also affects the cannabinoid level, doesn't it?
Mhm.
The
And
THC
density,
level.
density of the flower too.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's shift over to Stephanie. Stephanie, you're the company's marketing expert.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what they call me anyway. Yeah.
That's what
Good
they
word.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about how you got into this particular space, because I would imagine you probably did some level of marketing or sales in another industry.
For sure. Yeah, I've got about 15 years of front-facing experience. You know, got my start as a journalist and did radio and all that kind of fun stuff. And I've done marketing for a lot of industries. But 11 years ago, actually, I'm a Gen Xer. I'm almost 50, so I'm the old head in this group. But you know, I grew up a good little dare kid. But when I turned 38, I got stage 3 breast cancer, and really, much like Colt, I became a kind of a student of the disease. Really did a lot of research, and there's a lot of research on my particular type of breast cancer and cannabis and so on. And so I just asked my oncologist at the oncology planning appointment when we were going over the plan how he felt about cannabis, you know, consuming it to help just get through chemo or whatever. And, you know, this was before hemp. This was 2011. So he, you know, obviously had to kind of tiptoe around the subject. But ultimately, he said, none of us will tell you not to, because we all know it works. And he instructed me to wait 3 days after my first chemo round to make sure I could handle chemo, and then go ahead and use my, as he air quoted, homeopathic remedy. And then, yeah, that was my introduction into cannabis. I hadn't slept or ate in 3 days, and I had my first, I'd be shown how to use a bong. I had to be shown how to do it. And instantly rested. And then I woke up, and my first thought was, oh, wow, I'm hungry. I really want a steak right now. And it was as I was woofing down this food with great excitement that it just kind of hit me that the reason why I was able to do this, the reason why I was resting and eating, was because I had this plant, because I had taken my first hit of cannabis. And it's been in my life ever since. I became really passionate about it at that point. Because you see in real time for yourself how it makes a difference, and yeah, been talking about it ever since, you know. And I got in touch with, I met Colt and his wife. They had a booth at the Texas Hemp Convention a little over a year ago, and met them at the hemp convention, and you know, we all kind of hit it off. And then luckily I was able to worm my way into a job, so you know, they can't get rid of me now. So,
By the way, I really appreciate your Gen X status. So, like
Thank
you,
you.
I'm a Gen Xer as well. So, obviously, you worked in other industries. Now, were you a little bit reticent about getting into cannabis, or, but you know, given what you just told me, it
Sure.
doesn't sound like you were. But now we're talking about a job, right? Versus
Right.
just being someone that's
Right.
you know, maybe exploring the industry.
I've been very enthusiastic about the plant, you know, ever since I saw it in real time make a difference. You know, it's interesting to be that Gen X dare kid, right? You know, you were raised on Ron and Nancy telling you to just say no, and it was a gateway drug and all this other stuff. So really, it was. I think I got a little fueled by anger initially, like I've been lied to, you know, and now it's just like it's such a mission of mine, and I think for us as a farm as a whole, to because of that medical aspect, because it does help real people, and that's the driver for all of us every day. It's about other people.
Okay. Well, let's transition a little bit over to the company itself. The company is called Power BioPharms.
Right.
Okay. Who came up with the name?
BioPharms was my addition. I was getting advice from a couple people I consider mentors when I was getting the whole process started, and I had a different name. I can't even remember what it was. And he said, if you don't use your last name, you're doing it wrong. And I was like, okay. And so I was like, I'm going to work Power into it. And I definitely wanted the nod to the fact that we are coming at it with a medical intention, medical focus. And that was the farms with the PH was that where that came from.
Okay.
Yeah, and the bio, I guess, is coming from the plant naturally.
So how did you, from what I can tell, your company is, I want to say vertically integrated somewhat, because you're growing, you're also extracting. Are you extracting? Okay. And you're also creating your own products. So you're manufacturing and you're selling. So you're hitting multiple segments on the supply chain, upstream, downstream, midstream, all of it. how did you decide to do that versus focusing on one particular segment of it?
It was definitely an evolution. At the beginning, when I decided I wanted to start something, it was going to be in this space. I waffled back and forth between being a processor extraction lab and a farm. Really fell in love with the plant the more I learned about it, and then initially decided we're going to do the farm. I actually started growing. I got a license when they first came out. Registered my house as a location that was approved under the program, and got up to maybe, I don't know, 60 or 80 plants in my media room upstairs in tents. And so like I said, trying to learn as much as I can. I wanted hands-on experience, and started to really enjoy and feel energized by the grow side, and decided to build a business around that. And then with changes in the landscape, seeing what products were selling in the market and what was moving well, I thought it would be advantageous to add more of the vertical integration, capture some of those opportunities and kind of cost benefits through it. And one thing led to another. At the same time, too, I mean, we have intentions of becoming a fully licensed medical cannabis provider at some point in the future, and I knew that Texas was looking to organizations that did it all in-house. And so I figured no better way to start on that journey than start doing all of it.
Sure. I mean, I can imagine that's it's a little bit more financially impactful at the beginning, because you're looking at hitting multiple segments of the market. You're putting more resources. Now, is your group capital backed by anybody, or is it just purely you?
It's been friends, family, and my wife and I to this point. With that being said, it is a very, very capital intensive business, and we've kind of constantly been on the hunt for additional backing. Some of what we've done to date kind of has been a proof of concept to attract future investment.
So what's your mission? What's the mission of the company?
To be a vertically integrated provider of top-notch, high-quality cannabis products, ideally within the medical space.
Tell me some about your products. What exactly does Power BioPharms make?
We make a wide range of products at the moment. I think our gummies and tinctures and pet products are some of our most popular.
Okay.
We also make bath bombs. We have our flower put into pre-rolls. What else? I forget. Topical. We have a muscle balm, like a salve.
Pet treats.
Pet treats and pet oils. A variety. Gummies are by far our most popular one.
So, a number of years ago, I represented a company out of Michigan, and I had a chance to speak with the owner. And for whatever reason, this stuck in my mind. He said that some of his best-selling products and some of the most profitable products are his pet products. So tell me a little bit about how you decided to go the pet route.
Sure. So, I mean, obviously I talked about my athletic kind of background and that pushing me and kind of my personal story. And for what it's worth, I'll backtrack a second. My dad has had 19 orthopedic surgeries. My mom's had MS as well. So that's where some of that medical impetus comes from. And those are two conditions that benefit greatly from the plant. But I actually had had two Great Danes, one of which right when I was starting on this journey, got a tumor in his head and was inoperable, and he was basically living in a lot of pain. And I experimented and came up with that dog treat recipe using some of the material I had grown in my room upstairs, and kind of went down the research rabbit hole there too. And I was amazed at how much it helped him, and started giving it to our other Great Dane too, who's 10 years old now. And
are they little oral treats or?
So I made treats first. Yeah, they're little, kind of looks like a dog cookie.
Okay.
It's a little kind of crunchy treat. And I made it 15 milligrams each. I feel like most of what I saw on the market was smaller. And
CBD.
CBD, correct.
Yep.
Yeah. And, with those big dogs, their dosage needed to be higher. I was frustrated having to give the dog like half the bottle of these lighter milligram treats.
Those dogs are huge.
They're
massive. Great Danes are like, they're like the size of a horse.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. One of them got up to 160 pounds. Yeah, it's a lot, but I saw it work, and it is a higher margin product. The oils are very simple to make because that's not as much. I guess you want them to really not taste it, as I feel like from what we figured out. We experimented with the peanut butter and with the bacon and unflavored, where you can just kind of put it on top of the food that they already know and like. With the coconut oil or MCT oil carrier, they don't really notice it, but it benefits them. So.
Okay, so Nick, tell me about the about all the aspects of growing, extraction, and manufacturing. Where do you get the seeds or the seedlings?
So we were ordering from a couple places out of Oregon, Colorado, Washington, some places that already have like a well-established market up there.
Now, are they seeds or are they seedlings?
These were seeds, yeah.
Okay.
We had ordered clones from a couple places in Colorado,
Just one.
California.
Okay.
From one place, exactly. And aphids. We had aphids all over
And it goes back to your whole
the
bugs
clones.
thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You bring them in, they're gonna stay.
Okay.
They're making a bed, you know what I mean?
Right.
But we're strictly running clone only now. We don't run any seed right now. We've dwindled down and hunted out the phenotypes that we want. So every seed is going to be different.
Okay.
It's like a snowflake. I'll put it in that terms. And everyone's different. And we've dwindled down to the one that we want, as according to yield, terps, taste, all of that stuff. But yeah, we're running strictly clones. We take from a couple of moms, and that's about it. We don't run any seed. We will be next year running a few different strains and pheno hunting those out.
Yeah, all the new ones start from seed.
Yeah,
after we learned our lesson with the clones coming in.
Yeah, the new ones we pheno hunt with seed. But what I've noticed with, say, the high CBD seeds and the high THC that's already been, in Colorado and California for 20 years.
Right.
They've been bred out a lot better than, say, a lot of the CBD genetics. I'm seeing a lot more like hermaphrodites or just small yielding plants and a lot of variations in the plants. It's not like this in the THC market from what I'm seeing.
Okay. Now, is the extraction and manufacturing part, is that a very labor intensive process, or is it a very capital intensive process? Tell me a little bit about that.
At first, getting the equipment, yeah, that's
How much is a piece
big
of
chunk.
equipment? Like,
I'd say that as far as like capital versus labor, there's kind of like two different ways. You have like CO2 and ethanol and butane. They're very capital intensive, not necessarily as labor intensive. And then solventless rosin press, which is much more labor intensive and not as capital intensive. So like a rosin press, we got the top of the line commercial press, and it's $12,000. While kind of an entry level CO2 extractor that could do the same kind of throughput would be in the probably 25,000 at best. Probably more like 50.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I mean to cut you
No,
off.
no, you're good. But yeah, the extraction part, he hit it there with that. Like the pressing can be labor intensive because you have to, break the flour up, put the flour in the bags, press it, and then you got to pull it all off the parchment paper. But yeah, it's the extraction part. It's hit and miss depending on which extraction method we're using at the time, depending on what product we're making.
Okay. And do you have like a process where you say, well, we're going to process this, or it comes out a certain way where you're like, we have to dump this? Tell me about how you screen your stuff.
So I've gotten a couple, when we harvest some of the plants and stuff like that, because we're on a perpetual grow right now. So we harvest every 2 weeks.
Yep.
Every 2 weeks I'm harvesting 112 plants. So we have fresh supply and things like that. But we have had some where the genetics did go a little, haywire on us.
Sure.
And they would seed some of the flour. And yeah, so what we would do is just literally pick the seeds out and we press all of it. And we just put it all into, oils or the pet treats or whatever we're going to use it for. Or the gummies, But yeah, I've had some, it's not going to go perfectly as planned, especially,
Sure.
I've always done anywhere from up to 250 plants. We're getting up to around 1,200, 1,500 plants now. And there's definitely a learning curve with that,
So I'm curious. I mean, have you guys had any surveyors from the state of Texas, any state agency surveyors come out or to look at your facility?
I can let him tell this
Tell me
one
some good stories on that.
So we haven't had anyone from we've had people from the ag department. They were not there under the hemp program. They actually didn't realize what they were coming into. But we have, because we wanted to be able to supply other farms with our genetics, since we have moms, we got a nursery floral license because that's required to be able to sell living plants, I guess, within the state commercially. and they inspect all of their licensees. I don't know if it's annually or biannually, but I got a call one morning when I was in the warehouse, and they said, "Hey, we're here for your inspection." And I was like, "Oh, look at that! The hemp program is out doing inspections." And they came in, they're like, "Oh, we don't have anything to do here." They're like, "We've never seen this before." But that was about it.
Yeah, just those. I think it was like 3 employees from TDA, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we don't do that," and then they just left.
Huh.
So,
Okay.
It was an interesting process dealing with the city of Fort Worth, though. Being an indoor farm going into what was previously a distribution warehouse, and it being a new thing that was legal within the state. I was really impressed and surprised how great to deal with they were. They basically made a new zoning class, industrial agriculture.
Did you deal with the city council, or who did you deal with in the city?
Didn't have to go that high. It was just the zoning inspector.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Not every city is up to speed on stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, many municipalities take the not in my backyard attitude, right?
A couple told me no. I mean, I come from commercial real estate. That's what I did 10 years before this. So that was where I added value early to our business, was in the site selection kind of leasing process. But yeah, there were a couple municipalities in the same area that were just like, no, we're not going to approve that.
Right. And, in the past, I've advised clients on, if you're going to a very specific municipality or township, start creating those relationships with the city council, start creating opening up the dialogue on minimizing any skepticism, and that may reduce some of that not in my backyard attitude. But it sounds like for you, it was pretty streamlined, and you guys had a very fortunate run in that department. Yeah. So is your business? This may be a question for Stephanie. Is it more B2C or is it B2B for your company?
A valid question. We have a little bit of both. Obviously, we do have some business clients. We have some white label clients that we work with. We have retailers that carry our product, but direct to consumer through the website is pretty popular. A lot of people really got into that habit during COVID, ordering from home, and we ship pretty quickly, so people tend to prefer that. But yeah, we do a little bit of both.
So your B2C is almost entirely online sales.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, or through our retailers. We don't personally have our own retail space, but we do sell through local retailers.
Do you ever find yourself interacting with biomass brokerage firms to where they want to aggregate hemp to sell it off to third parties?
We've been contacted by a decent amount, more so early on. I think they figured out pretty early on that like our cost structure and kind of volume available wasn't what they were looking for. They're more after the outdoor grown kind of prices and volumes. But yeah, and having been on the processor list early in the industry, we got an awful lot of calls of people looking for that type of work as well.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. It was probably like back in 2019 when I started representing this biomass brokerage company. I didn't even know what it was at the time, and they just said, "Well, we got your name through, so and so," and they were trying to aggregate about 5 million tons of hemp of biomass, and they were essentially piecemealing all these different growers, and they had a list of all these different growers that they were trying to contact, and of course, they contacted me for drawing up some of the paperwork related to that. But I always found that to be interesting. I can imagine aggregating all that biomass. So when, of course, you guys are growers, and I was just wondering if you had been contacted by like companies like that.
Yeah. Like I said, not as frequently as we used to be.
Right.
It seems like after the big glut in like 2019, there's like people still sitting on biomass from that big. Like I feel like that was the year when growing was the biggest. There were the most farmers doing it kind of nationally, the most production. It seems like the outdoor large scale grow has scaled back to the people who already have contracts in place. There seems to be less speculative production, so the dynamic has changed a bit in the market.
I think it's good to note, because the way that we're structured, the way that we built our farm, because we're indoor grow, because we it's very people focused.
Yeah.
We care very much about that end consumer. That's why we do things the way we do, and we don't just run through just a whole bunch of biomass or isolate or whatever. Like some people who start companies, for Mr. Power from the very beginning was always very people focused, which is why vertical integration was important. Craft growing with a quality grower was important, because we understand that this is, yeah, it's a fun product for some people, but at the end of the day, it helps real people. So we structured it out to be more direct to that person.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we're actually more likely to be buyers of material than sellers for extraction.
Okay.
Because we love being Texas grown, Texas made, but we don't necessarily want to have to always own all of our own cultivation. And so we've been working on kind of building a network of other Texas farms, in particular indoor farms, that could potentially send biomass our way for additional volume.
Okay. Do you anticipate that you may go full retail beyond online sales for consumers?
We have been approached to open a retail store by someone who wanted to partner with us on doing it. We've kind of toyed with different concepts there. I think there is a decent chance we do at least a kind of flagship store for our brand and see how it goes. No definite timeline, but it's definitely not a primary focus or initiative at the moment. I can see that's something that we will grow into. Like I said, I like the idea of a flagship, something that can really give us a presence and help people really get to know us in a more fluid way than showing up to our production facility. That's not always practical. But we also like working with other retailers and being able to send product their way and not manage, we're excited about growing, extracting, and manufacturing products, and we're going to leave selling to the people that are out. I guess that already have the stores in place.
Got it. Now, your products right now are entirely a CBD line, right? Are you producing any other cannabinoid-based products beyond CBD?
We have some of the hemp-derived THCs. We do. Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're selling those as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So give me like Delta 8.
We have Delta 8 products that was one of the first popular gummies. That was really a lot of the people that we were already selling CBD products to had interest as they'd seen it become popular in the market. When it first popped up, I wasn't sure if it would stick around or not, but obviously it has. Since then, we really do sell a decent amount of the Delta 9, the hemp-derived Delta 9, the natural THC gummies.
Okay. Are you making HHC or like the THC O, V, or P?
So for
products?
a couple of our white label clients, we infuse flour and then we send that off and have pre-rolls made for them.
Got it.
But I think we mess with HHC and Delta 8 pre-rolls, and that's it right now at the moment.
And those customers provide their concentrates that they want used, and so it's kind of a service. Yeah.
Is there a particular product that you guys sell that has like higher profit margins versus ones that are, say, lower profit margins on your line of your suite of products? Or are they all about the same?
They're comparable. I'd say that things like the pet treats aren't great. They're pretty labor intensive, pretty expensive ingredients. That's probably not a top profitability one. Gummies are pretty good. Tinctures are very a very efficient process once you got your recipe down. And
Got it.
I'd say some pre-rolls can be tough, especially now with the smokable ban, where we have to ship out of state to have them made and then get them back.
Tell me about that. Tell me about that process.
Yes, since the Supreme Court ruling, and they decided to specifically target manufacturing as the problematic or restricted area. As a farm that was selling our flour and putting it into pre-rolls, that was something we had to adjust. And we had a partner. There's a lab in Colorado that had been an advisor to us, and they make a wide array of products. But we basically send our flour to them. They put it into pre-rolls, send it right back to us, and
of course you sell it.
Yeah,
right.
sell it.
Yep, that's the whole manufacturing restriction there.
When you make them yourselves in the facility that you grew it in, they're profitable. When you have to ship them to Colorado, pay for that service and then get it back. Not to mention shipping. Yeah, it's not.
And the whole time while they're out there, you're hoping that they come back.
Yeah,
because we've had shipments where they're gone.
We lost several hundred pre-rolls in the mail.
One of the last ones, we lost 800 pre-rolls.
So how do these pre-rolls just get magically lost?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have no clue.
Okay.
They just disappear.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Fair enough.
It's very convenient though. You
Okay.
know, it's just
Um,
another obstacle to overcome.
sure.
That's
And,
all
and
it
plus,
is.
like you were saying, it cuts into your profit margins too.
Exactly.
Right. It's an
yeah.
additional cost versus being able to do it here.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting because, you know, if Texas were to restructure some of the regulations, it could arguably make companies like yours more profitable, which if you're more profitable, you could do more good in the community. Right?
Absolutely. It seems like it's almost like it's taxing the local businesses while incentivizing outside businesses to
Sure.
send their products into the market. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about the industry itself. You've been in the industry for several years now. How have you seen it evolve over time?
A lot. Just between who's in the market, what are the hot products, where do we think things are headed, what's up in legislation. I mean, there's been a lot of changes. Like I was saying, we started originally with just being a farm, and it was actually that smokable ban or that whole lawsuit when it first came up that was one of the impetus to add additional processing and manufacturing.
Right.
Because we were expecting to get top dollar for our smokable products out of the farm, and we really didn't need much additional infrastructure to make that happen. But not knowing how that was going to shake out, we added the rest. I think going from CBD being the only expectation into Delta 8 becoming a new thing and then being an accepted thing. And like I said, I thought it was going to get cut off immediately, and it didn't. It stuck around, and same kind of thing with the hemp-derived Delta 9. And it's definitely been hard to predict what's coming next, what's going to stick around. Keeps it exciting for sure.
Now, what are your thoughts about some of the ambiguities that's essentially been created over the years with the FDA?
Yeah, I don't want to necessarily be the one to say I really wish they would tighten up all this stuff and regulate us more, because I know a lot of people wouldn't want that, but I like guidelines. I like playing within the rules that I know. I would rather have more oversight, meaning that we could first guarantee across brands and across products in the market a more consistent, reliable product to consumers.
And that's been a common complaint in the industry, right? It's just a lack of guidance by the FDA. And between 2019 through today, you're looking at ranging anywhere between 4 warning letters to 21 warning letters, and it varies. And just this year alone, they've issued quite a few. And they haven't issued. I mean, they've received word from Congress. They've received word from different segments of the government, and we're still waiting on some more concrete guidance from the FDA. Right now, do you know of any companies that you don't have to name? Please don't name names on here, but do you know anybody who's received warning letters?
Not personally, no. I mean, I've seen the press releases, but no.
Okay. So I've represented a few that received warning letters, and they're not fun to deal with. So I can tell you that.
Yeah, we try to be. I mean, that's definitely Stephanie's world, handling all of our language and communication and marketing. And I think that is one of the more frustrating things, where it's like we have all of this research about the safety and the efficacy, and alcohol can be advertised the way it is, and we can't even. We have to be so careful about everything we say.
Sure. So let's transition into the future of Power BioPharms. You said that your company is you, and it looks like your wife is involved with it as well, right?
She is. She's been in the medical industry since she graduated from the TCU nursing program. Okay. She's worked in Parkland's various ICUs, but for the longest time the medical ICU, and she was a huge impetus for us starting this company as well. And she is still working over there as we've been growing and kind of working to the point where we can bring her over. But it's our intention to make her full time as soon as we grow to that point. Yeah.
So what does the future look like for this company, and any new initiatives that you guys are considering?
We are looking pretty closely at trying to compete for a medical license, as it's been recently announced that I guess the state is opening up for that. I know it's extremely competitive, but that's kind of been where our heart and focus has been from the start, is trying to help people that really have the most to gain from the plant and from the products. And so that's what we'd like to make happen, whether it's this round or in the future. Sure. Assuming that we aren't able to get it, we're going to continue to do the same, like we talked about. It's the same infrastructure, same operation, and we still can bring some great, very beneficial products to people. I think it's just more of a challenge to communicate, like I said, within the kind of craziness of the products in the space and the changes in the space versus being a prescribed product to someone. I think that's like a really compelling business model, but we definitely will continue to help people either way.
Okay. Nick and Stephanie, any new initiatives down the pipeline for the growth side or the business development strategy side?
As far as like the infrastructure wise, we're looking to expand hopefully grow rooms and things like that next year. But we're eyes on the prize with that medical license. We really want to get it to where we can help people with what they need.
Okay.
Same. Yeah, definitely focusing towards that medical license. We definitely, education really matters to us and being transparent and sharing this kind of quality info. So we definitely are looking forward to working with physicians, hopefully in the future, in the very near future, and hosting some education for them as we continue to strive towards that medical focus.
It's so interesting talking to the three of you, and from the very start throughout the entire segment, you keep on circling back to medical and healthcare. And as an attorney who came out of the healthcare world, falling into cannabis, it's kind of music to my ears because you're literally looking at two very different regulated industries colliding together, and now they're intertwined and becoming more and more intertwined. Well, that's awesome. And give me one fun fact about you, Colt.
I guess just kind of tie that medical focus off with a little funny. So I really thought I wanted to be a surgeon. That was like when I went to Notre Dame, I really wanted to go do pre-med. And then I went and shadowed a surgeon for, he was an NFL surgeon. He was working on a couple guys that had a Tommy John's and then an ACL. And I almost passed out and threw up in the operating room, was told to leave. And that's when I realized that might not be it for me, but I think it took that kind of, it's a fun fact though. Sorry, I kind of had that in my head before you asked the question. That wasn't necessarily answering the question. At Notre Dame, I used to lead the team out with bagpipes. That was a tradition of the team before every game. Okay. So I don't know really how to play them well, but I know how to play one song okay. Okay. And that was, yeah.
What about you, Nick? One fun fact.
Fun fact. I don't know about. I'll start with like a fun fact of the future. Next year, I'm looking to be almost 100% grow my own food, so I don't have to buy anything from the store.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. So you truly are a cultivator in other aspects as well.
Yeah. So I want to grow for my entire family so that we don't have to go to the store and get that food. I mean, that's probably a different story for a different time, but sure. Yeah, I could definitely get to where I don't have to buy the food from the store. It's very just cool. not the best food,
Very cool. What about you, Stephanie?
Oh, I hate this question actually because I'm not sure how to answer it.
It's kind of tough. It is kind of tough. It's one of those ones you're like, oh, let me think about it.
What should I do? Yeah. Fun fact about me, I guess. I think I already mentioned it earlier, but I used to get up every day at 3:30 in the morning to prepare to do morning drive radio and wake other people up. Okay. And so that's what something that was a big driver in me leading off my career in marketing is learning the voice of how to voice to others. And I guess that's just a fun fact. Not everybody's done morning radio. So
no, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, that really is the wrap for this particular episode. I really want to thank you all for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, not a problem. And sharing such great knowledge and such good information. And, as I've always said, the purpose of the Sativa segment is really to educate the public and to bring about more awareness in the industry. And I think we achieved that today. So
this was great. Thank you so much for having us.
Appreciate you.
Not a problem. Okay. Well, let's conclude this episode, and thanks a lot.